Hello, Vermonters. Thanks for joining me. I want to talk about food and food inflation, which is going to be an increasingly important issue for Vermonters. I've been saying so actually for many years, and particularly in the last year. A lot of things are coming together in a sort of perfect storm that's going to hurt food prices. I just want to share a picture of a beautiful beef bull and my friend Steve Brown in Barton, Vermont. I bought some wonderful heifers from Steve back in the day. That's just a beautiful animal. And the stewardship and the knowledge that goes with raising animals is what we really need in our leadership right now. And in our president, in President Biden, we're told that inflation has been caused by various things. We were told it was transitory. We were told it was caused by COVID, which in a way it was because so much money was unnecessarily printed and flushed into the economy using COVID as the reason. He has said that Ukraine is responsible, and at one point he said that the majority of inflation in America is being caused by used car prices, which, by the way, in Vermont are up 21% in the last year, about 38%, I think, in the last 2 years. So an average used car in Vermont right now is $31,000 plus dollars. This plus housing costs, interest rates are going up. Vermonters, if you wanted to buy a house now and you're a young family, it's pretty hard because of the escalating real estate prices. Rents are way up. But food prices are going to be what really hit us. And we have a legislature that's been trying to put a tax on heating oil, which is around $7 a gallon for heating oil, in the name of helping poor people and saving the planet. That's literally what they're saying. They're so out of touch with what people on fixed incomes are facing. And they were already facing these problems 3-4 years ago. And our Department of Public Utilities has explained that it adds $40 to $60 million a year estimated in additional expenses for electric fees to fund net metering, to support solar panels. And now this legislature, including Jay Hooper and Larry Satkowitz and my opponent, Mark McDonald, I'm running for Senate, John Clark, how are you? Have all voted and pushed really hard this session to put through a tax on heating oil in the face of this economic problem. And what I want to show you is how much more vulnerable food is to these problems. And that the government is not helping us here, by the way. The government is acting very much like an infection that only grows in a way to amplify and magnify itself. But the fuel costs, which are not really fully filtered in yet to our food supplies, are about to be. I talk to farmers all the time. They're wonderful people. And the price of fertilizer has doubled this year to $1,000 a ton for what they usually buy for fertilizer. They can't find plastic wrap. They can't find baling twine. Baling twine that we used to buy for $19.99 a roll all the time for square baled sisal wrap or twine is, I believe, $79.99 a bale now, if you can find it, for a double roll. So we're looking at those prices are going to filter into hay, et cetera. Now, if you imagine a hamburger that you get not locally but from a conventional or commercial industrially produced food supply, it has a lot of different forms of food in it. So you have the lettuce, and maybe you've got some onions and some tomatoes, and they probably came from out west, frankly, from California. They may have come from Chile. And the further away they came from, the more they cost in fossil fuels to transport here. The more they cost in refrigeration expenses to transport here. If they're refrigerated, all these things are going up. But also when they were grown in the ground, there were diesel fuels and other fuels used in the tilling of the ground, in the seeding, in the application of fertilizers, herbicides, pesticides, in the harvesting and the processing. Especially, if you have pickles, then they are heated. There are heat and electricity and power, I beg your pardon, fossil fuels in all these layers of these applications, but particularly in synthetic fertilizers, which are made from natural gas, the price of which is through the roof. Potash and phosphorus a lot of it comes from abroad and is very expensive. There are limited resources. They're all spiking in prices. So in 6 months or a year from now, all the foods that you buy now and we buy now, all of their prices are going to be higher. This is not transitory or temporary. This is permanent because it has to do with underlying inflation by printing too much money. And it's just like a monopoly game. And wages will not keep pace. And it is most threatening to people on fixed incomes. This is the time for Vermonters to learn and remember about the Great Depression and how to raise your own food. And learn about what progressive taxation is versus regressive taxation. And figure out, as I will show you in a series of videos, that the so-called progressives have imposed some of the most regressive taxes because they didn't have any more pockets to reach into for rich people. So they've been going after things like sales taxes and other taxes they expand. They want to put sales taxes on groceries in the name of helping poor people, which they have no plan to actually do once they do it. It's time for Vermonters to wake up and see where their wallets are being drained. The Department of Agriculture in Vermont is out once again to limit us on on-farm slaughter at a time when we're looking at a potential food crisis, food inflation, and we need to grow Vermont's farms and businesses, not quell them with more and more regulations. A department that got some $20 or $25 million, according to a plan, to hire more people to work as bureaucrats in the Department of Agriculture, while we've lost yet more dairy farms. We're now under 700 dairy farms. I mean, how big will the Department of Agriculture get when we have no dairy farms left? I mean, will it just keep growing? My motto in my campaign for governor was, farms close, bureaucracy grows. And the evidence is even more in front of us now than ever. And my website, clar2022now.com or clarforsenate.com, same website address, has the same manifesto that I put up 2 years ago. The same prescriptions are there to give tax credits and other support to local farmers, especially young people who want to farm. And I don't mean dairy, I mean meat production. We need to have more facilities for processing of meats. We could do more to support distribution and marketing of Vermont meats. This is a huge growth area for our economies and for our food supply and for affordability and quality of food that also can be supplied more widely to our hospitals and our prisons and our school systems and our military here in Vermont. And all of this would take so little and has nothing but pluses. But our legislature instead has been dithering about passing a law so that people go to jail for 2 years if they threaten a public official, and change the Constitution for some symbolic language. We're in real trouble here with food. And Vermonters know that. Most of us know that. And many people, I hear people that can't buy heating oil, so they're heating with electric heat. This is a crisis unfolding. It's going to get much worse. The food prices are going to get worse. And the people that have been dithering and growing bureaucracy at the expense of farms are not the ones to be trusted to fix it. Holly Tucker owns a local business here in Randolph, Vermont. And I remember talking to her last year, and she was almost in tears because an inspector came in from the health department and said, well, you have to paint this whole room and you have to do this, and this needs a new floor. And handed her a slip of paper. It was going to cost her $4,000 or $5,000 in capital improvements in a business that might have been scraping by at the time. Those in bureaucracy, as with farms, I'm making a comparison, are in the business of growing their bureaucracy, and their salaries go up every year, whether they perform well or not. And that's not how farmers perform. Farmers can't perform that way. That's why they're closing, because you're making it harder and harder for businesses to succeed by those whose business it is to regulate, monitor, and really put bills on taxes on businesses. All those things cost money. Compliance by oil companies delivering oil with all these regulations for tank inspections and levy taxes, and out-of-state oil, we're told by one senator, is somehow okay to tax. It's in-state Vermonters buying it. So all of this is just a horribly counterproductive, destructive process of progressivism. So the answer is, 1, grow a vegetable garden. 2, vote red. And 3, please just go look at my farming manifesto and the proposals that we're putting forward. We can come together, red or blue, black or white, rich or poor, and work on these things and find an area of consolidation instead of more division. And that's what I'm running on. My name is John Clar. I'm running for State Senate for Orange County. And I ask you to look more into our policies, and I approve of this message. Thanks again.